guys, it's Amber. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back, and if you're new, then welcome to the Madhouse. Thank you so much. So, today is episode 2 of the fertility episodes. I am going to ask you really to bear with me today. I have had a few days off work this week because I haven't been very well. I am coughing my guts up like there is no tomorrow, so if I just suddenly like disappear or this video is really choppy, then I am so sorry. It probably means that I've had a coughing fit and it's not great. Yeah, this week hasn't really been ideal. I think I've not been very well. My dog isn't very well. My German Shepherd's fine, but my Labrador seems to have cut all his paws, which really isn't ideal. And bless him, he seems to have done like his 2 front ones, so he's just kind of walking like this, and oh bless him, he's so cute. I love him so much. But big things have happened on the YouTube front, in the sense that I now have a ring light, so I look much better. It's not such a dark and dingy dressing room anymore, and I got a backdrop. I'm not 100% whether or not I'm going to keep this or not. I can't really decide. I need to iron it, but I wanted to make sure that I got this episode up for today, and therefore I thought I'd just shove it up, see how it looked, see whether or not I liked it when I was editing it, and if I do, well then I can iron it out. It is now officially September, which is really exciting. I love autumn, I love a jumper, I like cups of tea, I like all like chestnut candles, so this is really exciting. September is finally here, which brings me to the topic of this video. I do feel like I should have maybe done this video first, but it falls really at an ideal time and pretty much bang on when it needs to. So this video is basically a year on what I've learned. So I'm going to today go back our entire journey over the last year, kind of update you with what our situation actually is, and tell you kind of everything that's happened in the last year, and then on top of that, everything I have learnt from that. I mean, realistically, our journey has been 4.5 years now, but the last year is when everything has kind of got really serious and when things have really started to take a turn. So grab yourself a cup of tea, let's sit down, and let's again talk all things vagina. I thought I would start this video realistically by kind of introducing myself to you. So I think last week we went over all the different Q&As that people on my Instagram had asked, but I didn't really introduce myself to you, so that is what I'm going to do today. My name is Amber, so I'm 24 years old. I'm 25 in about 7 weeks. Not that that really makes any difference whatsoever. So I'm basically 25. I've been married for 18 months, thereabouts. I live with my husband at home with our wonderful 2 dogs. I have a German Shepherd and a Labrador, Tila and Bruce. They are literally the light of my life. You do not understand how much I love those dogs. Oh, I just want to snuggle them all the time. They're so cute. So I am aware that a lot of people will watch this or read my story or hear me talking about it and think, blimey, she's young. And yes, I am young. However, realistically, I think it's a good job I started younger, as everyone knows that the older you get, the harder it is. And with IVF, it's hard enough anyway. So the older you get, the even harder it gets. And therefore, I think really I'm quite blessed to have found all this out quite young. We started trying in January 2015. I say we started trying, what actually happened was I came off the pill. I had been on the microgynon. I don't know if it's microgynon or microgynon, but I came off that then because I'd been on it since I was about 15, and the side effects really weren't ideal for me. I was putting on loads of weight, I was moody, I was getting really spotty. It just didn't work for me, and I wasn't really interested in trying anything else. So I came off the pill, and it was kind of, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We'll just stop. We'll stop not trying to get pregnant. And that's what we did. Anyway, it was about a year in, and we then realised that, hold on a minute, why am I not pregnant? Like, we have been so irresponsible and I am not pregnant. What is going on? And then I kind of got a little bit obsessed with it. And it went from there, and I started downloading all these different apps. So the app I had was Glow, and I really recommend it in the sense that it did kind of track my periods, and the symptoms I was getting, so things like my mood swings, aches and pains here, there and everywhere, it was all very in sync with the app, which was great. However, it was only in sync if my periods were regular. My periods were never clockwork. They were before I went on the pill, but after coming off the pill, my periods were never ever clockwork. So it worked for me, but at the same time it didn't. There's loads of different apps out there that you can download if you are trying. I know some people who have downloaded apps to track everything and figure out when they're ovulating, and they have fallen pregnant really quickly. So if you are in the really early stages, it might be worth trying to find an app that works for you and seeing whether or not it helps you. Anyway, so I downloaded these apps. I had got a BBT thermometer, I had started taking all these supplements, I had read every book on which way, different positions that are supposed to get you pregnant and this, that and the other, and I literally became a demon. I was so obsessed with the concept of becoming pregnant. So off we went, it all carried on, and after about 18 months I started getting myself really stressed out, like what is going on, why is this not working for me? And it was then in the January of 2017 I was late for my period, which wasn't a shock. I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is different to polycystic ovaries, so you don't actually have any cysts with PCOS, but there's all these different symptoms. I'll link the NHS lists down below so you can have a look if you want to. I was late for my period, and as I did every month, I thought, right, I've been late for X amount of days, I'm going to do a test. So the night before I'd stocked up on pregnancy tests, and I had a pack of 2 that I thought, right, okay, let's go. There were digital ones, and loads of people were saying that the digital ones were really good, so I thought, sod it, let's try it. So I got up, and it was about 5:30 in the morning, and I remember reading first wee of the day, because all your hormone levels are a lot higher. So I did, and what do you know, it said pregnant, and I couldn't believe it. Like, all the colour drained from my face, everything just kind of stood still. I really could not believe it. My husband was in bed, and I was a bit like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, do I wake him up? Do I not wake him up? What do I do? So I did another one, and I sat there, and I just kind of left it on the floor, face down, and I was thinking, no, it can't be right, can't be right, can't be right. This is going to be negative. What do I do? Everything was going into my head of, how do I tell my dad? How am I going to tell Marco? What is it that I'm going to do? And I flipped it over, and it said pregnant, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, 2 years, and finally it's happened. And I was so scared, and I was so nervous for all these different reasons, but ultimately I was over the moon, and I was just like, oh my God, I work. I don't know if you've ever seen Gavin and Stacey, but the last episode, and he's like, oh my God, my balls work, that is how I was. So I got dressed and I went to work, but I literally could not concentrate at all. So I pulled my boss to the side and just said, look, do you mind if I take half a day if I go home? She was like, no, that's absolutely fine. So I went home, and I got home, and I said to Marco, there's something I need to tell you. I think you need to sit down. And I did. And I said to him, I'm pregnant. And he just kind of sat there a bit shell-shocked. And then he just started laughing. And then he didn't stop laughing, and he was over the moon. And it was just so, I don't know, it was everything I expected it to be, really, but I was so nervous and so like, oh my God. I rang my doctors to try and get in with them just to have it all confirmed, and she said to me, you know, we've not got any appointments for the next like 2 weeks or something like that. I worked 9 to 5, so there was no way that I was ever going to get an appointment with them. My doctor's is only open 9 till 1, which is really not ideal considering most people work. So I rang my friend and said, look, this has happened. Can you come and pick me up? I didn't drive at this time. So she picked me up, she took me to the walk-in centre, and they did some tests, and he came back into the room and he said, you're not pregnant. Sorry, what? You're not pregnant. No. I think I misheard you. I'm sorry, you're not pregnant. Ah. Okay. But the test said I was. And it wasn't just one test, it was 2. I think you might have had a faulty batch. A faulty batch. Brilliant. Anyway, I was really upset. I went home, I told Marco, I couldn't believe it. I felt like the biggest idiot in the world, and that was that. So we carried on. We then got engaged, and we had intended on getting married in spring 2018, which is what we did. We carried on trying throughout all that time. At the beginning of 2017, Cambridgeshire and Peterborough CCG took IVF off the NHS, so we no longer got it free, and they said they were reviewing it in April 2019. So we knew that even if we got referred to the fertility clinic now, there wasn't really going to be anything they could do if we needed IVF. I kept going to my doctor and I kept saying, this is not normal, why is it taking so long? And he just kept saying to me, you're young, you've got polycystic ovaries, it's just taking time. It's just taking time, you'll be all right, they're just heavy periods. And I really wasn't being listened to. Like, I cannot stress how ignorant my doctor was being. So one thing I would say to you is that if you are going through this and you're in the early stages and you're only just starting to go to your doctors for your initial appointments and you're starting to say to him, look, something isn't right, push, 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 push. It's mad. It's almost like you've got to push to get the baby in and then you've got to push to get it out and all. So eventually he did refer us, or wanted to refer us, but at this point we were about 3 months away from getting married, and I just thought, do you know what, we don't need this stress now. I think we'll wait 3 months, we'll get married, and then we'll come back and we will then go for it. And I was so angry because I thought, I have been trying for 3 years now for you to refer us and make this initial step, and it's always been such a problem that then when he finally listened to me, it wasn't the right time. And I think timing is everything, but I knew that if we went and I had to have the laparoscopy and things like that, I knew that just before my wedding it really wasn't ideal. And so we got married and that was fabulous, and I went from Miss Bridges to Mrs. Itso, and it was all wonderful and beautiful and hallelujah. We had a fantastic day, and straight after that it was, right, let's get the ball rolling again. We carried on, we went on our honeymoon. I convinced myself that I was pregnant while we were out there because I was so hormonal. I was literally just an angry cow the whole time we were in California. I felt so sorry for my husband. And then when we got back, we went to the doctors, he made the referral, and that was it. We started seeing the fertility clinic. While we were seeing her, she was so attentive. Her name was Wendy, and she was absolutely wonderful. And she would go through everything with us. We were going home with leaflets upon leaflets after every appointment. And it was really informative. And the first thing she wanted to do was send me for the laparoscopy. And she said, we'll send you for this because all your symptoms match endometriosis. So we will send you, we will see whether or not that's the case. If that is the case, then we know how to treat you and we'll go from there. I said, right, okay. Which brings me up to September the 5th, which is why I am posting this video today as episode 2. So yesterday marks a year since I had my laparoscopy. I remember walking into that hospital on that day, absolutely bricking it. I was so hungry because I wasn't allowed to eat, and everything was going through my head. Like, I couldn't decide which result I wanted. I couldn't decide whether or not I wanted to know that nothing was wrong and everything was working the way it should be, and it just wasn't happening. I didn't know if I wanted an outcome that was, there is something, but it's not the end of the world. You can still fall naturally, and there's things we can do for you. Or I didn't know if finally I wanted, well, no, I didn't want this. Or finally I was very nervous that the outcome was going to be worst case scenario and I couldn't fall pregnant at all. And I'd never been under general anaesthetic before. I'd never had to go to hospital before. I tell a lie, I had my nose cauterised when I was about 7 or 8. But I'd never had to have a surgical procedure before, and I was so nervous. But anyway, it was great fun when I was going down on general anaesthetic. I love general anaesthetic. It's a bit sadistic really, isn't it? But I had a great time. And when I came round, I remember sitting there and I was in so much pain, and I sat up and the nurse came over and she gave me a custard cream and a cup of coffee, and I was talking to her and she said, I'm really sorry, And she said, we did find something, Mrs. Itzo, and we found that both of your fallopian tubes were fully blocked. The only way you're ever going to get pregnant is through IVF. I'm not joking, that is literally what she said, word for word. And I just burst into tears. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that's how I'd been told. I was completely on my own. I'd been woken up about 2 minutes, and that was how they decided to tell me. But at the end of the day, I suppose she's got a job to do. She probably had about 15 other women to tell the same thing to. And that was it. I just burst into tears, and she said, have you got any questions? And in that moment, you know, I'd just literally woken up from an operation. I'd just been under general anaesthetic. I didn't really know my own name. And they're asking me if I've got any questions. And I was like, no, no. So off they did. They wheeled me off into this little room, and I rang Marco and I just said, it's not going to happen. And that was it. And that was now a year and 1 day ago. And it has been one hell of a roller coaster of a year. It really, really has. I think everything has just done a complete 180, and everything in my life has changed. I can honestly, hand on heart, say that nothing in my life is the same as it was 12 months ago. Everything has changed, and it is really, really strange. And this entire journey has been one that I would not wish on my worst enemy. I think I took it really badly. Initially, it was horrible, and I kind of sunk into this depression, and it was horrific. I was put on antidepressants. I quite literally didn't want to be alive, and it was just awful. It was a really, really horrible time, and I was a horrible person to be around. So that was it. I think it just wasn't very nice, and I think now it kind of took me 6 months to get over that, and then another 6 months to kind of bring myself to where I am now. And I think now I have exceeded everything that I was before. I think I have finally, my husband kind of put it in a nutshell this morning. He kind of said to me that he has completely got me back to where I was before, and then some. I am who I am before, who I was before, and then some. And I needed to hear that, I think. I think that was a really nice thing to hear. I think ultimately this has made me such a better person, and I think you have kind of got to, it gets worse before it gets better, and I think it's like that with everything. With when you're ill, everything gets worse before it gets better, but when it does get better, oh my god, it is so worth it. So the whole point of today's video is to reflect on that, and to kind of go over with you all the things I have learned in the last 12 months, and why in some ways I am so grateful to have been on this journey. That sounds really weird to say, but bear with me, you'll see what I mean. So we're going to take it all the way back, and I'm going to talk to you about all the different things that I've learned about myself, about other people, about being infertile, just everything, so that we can all kind of reflect. I think it's really important to reflect, and I think it's really important to see when you do reach certain milestones. I think it's really important to kind of look back at how far you've come, because otherwise it's so easy to get lost and feel like you've not gone anywhere. Like realistically, I'm still not pregnant. I still haven't had a round of IVF. I am still in the same position that I was last year, but everything has changed in the process. And I think sometimes you have got to just sit back and reflect so that you can appreciate how far you've come. So that's what we're going to do. So although I have been trying to get pregnant for 4.5 years, the last year has been really significant, as that is when I was diagnosed as actually infertile. And in March this year, I sterilised myself and had my tubes removed as a result of this. So I am completely infertile. So this last year, it was kind of, it was 2 different parts. So I had the 6 months leading up to my bilateral salpingectomy, where I had my tubes removed, and it worked out quite well actually, because it was literally 6 months to the day when I had that done, and 6 months to the day is today. So it's kind of worked out really well, timing wise. But I do feel like after I had both of my tubes removed, that is when my mindset kind of shifted completely, and I went from just feeling sorry for myself all the time to actually, no, come on, you've hit rock bottom, now let's build our way back up again. And I really do feel like I've done it, and then some. One of the lessons that I have learned during this journey is actually that I am so much stronger than I thought. Like, I don't know, I've had my fair share of poo thrown at me, really, over the years. Like, I think, you know, there were certain things that happened when I was a teenager, and then there were certain things that happened when I was kind of 18, 19, and I just sort of dealt with them. I mean, arguably I didn't, but I did, I dealt with them. Whereas this was something that kind of hit me like a wrecking ball, and I crumbled. Like, there is no other way to describe what happened to me. I turned into a horrible person. I wasn't very nice to be around. I was so angry, I was so bitter, I just cried all the time. If you think, like, the worst period you've ever had in your life where you're so unreasonable and you just cry all the time, I was like that 24/7 for 6 months, and it was horrible. Like, my marriage nearly ended over this, for crying out loud. It really wasn't a great place to be. And yet I did deal with it. And as much as sometimes I look back and I think you really didn't deal with that very well, I think I did. Like, I think you have to grieve in order to kind of see it a different way. If I'd have just come out of that operation and gone, right, do you know what, full steam ahead, let's go, this is what it is, to me that's not human. I think you have to feel upset sometimes, and I think something like that is quite hard not to be upset about. Like, your choice, and the one thing in a way you're put on this earth to do, is taken away from you. I really did hit rock bottom, and I think I experienced feelings I don't ever want to feel again. Like I said earlier, I didn't really see the point in being alive, and I don't ever want to get back to that point. That was really hard, and not just for me, but for my husband, for my friends, and it's just, I always say to people, you can never understand someone's mindset until you're in it, and I look back now and I just see someone that isn't me, and it was really hard and really horrible, but I made a conscious decision. It is so easy for people to sit there and say to you, you need to think positive, you need to change your mind away, you need to turn your mind around, it could be worse. It's so easy for people to tell you how to cope with certain things, but you can't do it. I always say you cannot help someone who doesn't want to be helped, and I did not want to be helped. So I did that all by myself. I made the decision to have my tubes removed. I didn't need them removing, but I decided to for psychological reasons. And after that, I kind of woke up from that operation and thought, you know what, onwards and upwards, let's deal with this now. I'm gonna grab it by the balls and just run with it. And I feel like that's what I've done, and I feel like it took me a really long time to get there, but I did it, and I didn't break. I nearly broke, but I didn't. And I think that has kind of put in a nutshell for me how strong I am. Like, I feel proud of myself to be here, really, and the fact that I seem to have got my upbeat, bubbly self back, whereas I was just a recluse, really. I never wanted to do anything, I didn't want to see anyone, and that was it. And so I am proud of me. You have to say that. I am proud of me, and I think I've done a really good job, actually, of turning everything around. So without tooting my own horn too much, toot toot, I am proud of me, and I am a lot stronger than I thought. Another lesson I've learned is that the TTC Sisterhood is bloody real. Like, I think you have friends, and you have friends that you can talk to, and you have people that you can confide in. However, there is nobody better than someone who is going through the same thing as you, or has gone through the same thing as you. The amount of people I have had speak to me or get in contact with me after I started sharing my story was unreal, and the amount of people I know that have gone through similar, that I didn't even know had gone through the same thing, that have got children, and I had no idea that they had gone through any of this. But the people who provide you the best support are those going through it, or those trying to conceive. And I think there are people I have not met ever in my life, and they have got in contact with me, or there are people that really I shouldn't be friends with that have got in contact with me because they have been through similar things. And it is amazing how much people want to support each other, and how much people who know how it feels will help you. I had a lady in a IVF support group on Facebook we were talking about books that have helped us and things like that. And as I said to you in last week's episode, Izzy Judd's book really helped me. And so I was asking for other books that other people have found really helpful. And it was a lady called Hayley, and she got in contact with me and she said, look, I've just finished this book. I'll send it to you. And she did. She just sent it to me. And I just thought she could have made a bit of money on that. Like, it wouldn't have been much, but I know people that don't really buy second-hand books for that much, but she could have sold that on, or she could have kept that for herself. There was nothing making her send that to me, and I honestly think that was so kind. And I live for kindness. I love kind people, and I couldn't believe that she had done that. And that's what I mean, that when you're in this situation, I think people talk to you differently, and people really do want to stick by you, and there's none of this cattiness of they want it to work for them so they don't want it to work for you and they're jealous. There's none of that. Like, I think as much as they're kind of envious of other people, and we're all like it, and we all get, you know, you could be over the moon for somebody that is pregnant, but at the same time you're really envious of them and you're almost quite jealous of them. But when it is another trying to conceive sister, you're just over the moon. Like, you're just buzzing because you know that they've experienced the same feelings that you felt, and it's just amazing. Like, the sisterhood, honestly, I can't explain to you, it is real. It is just amazing. It really is amazing. Some of the friendships I've formed through this is just fantastic. I think it's one of those things where nobody wants you to fail, everybody wants you to succeed, and I think that's what makes it so strong. And when you have an issue that is so taboo and people don't want to talk about, and people feel uncomfortable when you do talk about it, finding someone who completely gets how you feel is just amazing. It really is. I don't know, like, I can't thank enough every single person who has got in contact with me and has either wished me well or has told me their story or has found comfort in me, and it's just incredible. It really is just incredible. So yeah, so if you do ever end up in my position, or you are in the early stages, or you're even at the same point I am, you're further, whatever, if you don't feel like you have anyone to talk to, honestly, social media is fantastic. I don't have any support groups in my area, so there's not anything physical that I could go to. Not that I'd be able to anyway, because I do shift work, but I don't have anything like that to utilise in my area. And I thought about setting one up, but I didn't, for a lot of different reasons. But social media has become my best friend during this, because I think, especially on Facebook and Instagram, the amount of support groups as such on Facebook, but people to talk to on Instagram, it's just brilliant. I love it. I really do. The sisterhood is real. It is such a girl gang. I'm in a girl gang, huns. Cool, that's a bit hot. Another lesson I've learned is probably one of the most important lessons I've learned, but it's that it's alright to cut toxic people from your life. I feel like this is a lesson I needed to learn a long time ago. I have always been a bit of a pushover. I've never known how to say no, and I would let people literally just walk all over me. Now, I can kind of realise when people are toxic, and I don't feel the need to keep them in my life anymore. So if someone is a friend, but that person is always a victim, that person makes you feel bad for saying no, that person sucks all the life out of you, that person isn't interested in your problems and only ever talks about themselves, that person to me is very toxic. And I think there are people who are only friends with you because it suits them, and as soon as it doesn't suit them and you need support from them, they're not interested. And the amount of people that I have realised are not actually my friends over the last year, it's quite shocking, really. Like, I've cut a lot of people off and I still do it. You know, there are people that I've been friends with for a long, long time that this happened, and you realise who matters, because you see the people that are making a conscious effort to make sure that you're all right, and you see the people that are coming over to see you when you're sofa bound because you've just had a major operation. And you see who the people are that drop you texts and say, hey, are you all right? How are you? And then you see the people that don't ask how you are, and you see the people who don't really care. And I have got to a point where even before this, like, take the fertility out of it. The people who I've been friends with for a long time, but really they don't bring anything positive into my life. Like, they don't do me any good. They are the people that I've just thought, now, do you know what? If you don't bring anything positive into my life, I don't need you in it. Off you go. Goodbye. And I'm brutal with it now. I won't sit there and just take it. I think now I'm very aware of what I need in my life and what I don't need in my life, and I'm not going to pretend that, I'm not going to convince myself that I need these people in my life because of my incessant need to be liked. I have always wanted to be liked and always wanted to be somebody that just people collectively like. Whereas now, I do not care what people think of me. I have completely done a 180 like you would not believe. I have gone from wanting everyone's approval to, frankly, not giving a rat's ass what anybody thinks of me. 12 months ago, I would not have sat here and filmed myself and put it on YouTube. I would not have done any of that. I would not have sat here and told everybody about things like this. I wouldn't have run a blog. I just wouldn't have done it, because I would have been so conscious of what people thought of me. And I don't just mean people in my life now. Like, I would be too worried that somebody I went to school with would come across this and would just laugh at me, and them and their little friends would all sit and take the mick. Whereas now I just think, do you know what? I don't care. You do you. And at the end of the day, if these people have more of an interest in what I'm doing with my life and discussing me, then their life is boring, you know? I don't do people that just bring other people down for the sake of it. That's not what I'm about. And I can't be bothered with it anymore. So, as I said, if people don't bring good to my life, then goodbye. I am not going to sit there and have a conversation with you and force myself to accept your energy if the energy you're giving me isn't what I need. It's such a simple thing to do when you learn how to do it. And I think I found it really hard at first to say no to people and just say, no, do you know what? Nah, see ya. Whereas now I think I'm not going to make the effort. If I feel like all the effort I'm putting in is one way, I'm not going to do it. And I think for both Marco and I, to be honest, I think this has really opened our eyes as to who our friends are and who our friends aren't. And that's what I mean. Like, not everybody who isn't meant to be a friend is toxic. Like, there's a difference between people that just aren't very good friends and people that are toxic. But when these toxic people are in your life, I think it's so important just to get rid of it, because you can't flourish if you've got other people poisoning you. That's the only way I can think to describe it. That's probably a really bad analogy, but it is. That's exactly it. So, yeah, I've learned that it's all right to cut toxic people out of your life and to cut negativity. Whether that's a family member, a friend, a colleague, it doesn't matter. If they're not good for you, they're not good for you, and you're not going to grow. So, ciao, adios. Get rid of them, hun. Another thing I've really learned, and I think this is a huge thing for me, is that I am so out of control. I don't mean like spiraling out of control. What I mean is I am a huge control freak, and I have to have a plan for everything. So my entire life, ever since I was about 13, 14, in my head has been planned out. I wanted to get married before I was 24, and I wanted a child by the time I was 24. That was it. I wanted to live my life. Like, my mum was married about 23, 24, and she was 24 when I was born, and that is kind of just how I wanted to live my life. I went to school with a lad who had, there was him, and he had 5 siblings, and they literally had the life of the Waltons, in my head anyway. I'm sure behind closed doors things were very different, but in my head they were the Waltons, and I wanted that so bad, that everything in my life was planned. I was going to go to uni, I was going to graduate, I was then going to get married, and then I was going to have a child, and that was it. And that's obviously not happened. And one of the biggest things with my blocked tubes and the infertility was that everything was so out of my control now, and it wasn't going to happen when I wanted it to happen. And that for me was really hard. I like to have everything planned down to a T. I like to have control of everything. I don't like surprises. I don't like just leaving things to work themselves out. I can't do it. I have to have a solid plan of what is what, and my life isn't that anymore. My life has turned out so differently to how I ever thought it would, that it's just insane. Like, I don't feel the need for it as much now. I think I did, but now I've kind of accepted that this is how it's happening. When it comes to us having a child, I don't feel like I need to have control of everything. Like, I always said that when it does happen, I'd want to find out what I was having and things like that, whereas now I'm just so like, no, I wouldn't want to know. And I just think you've just got to let it happen now. And I think when it comes to IVF and this, that and the other, it's so controlled, but it is not me that is controlling it, and it isn't me that is controlling what I'm putting into my body. It isn't me controlling what days I have things done, and there just isn't any control that is me. I don't have any control over any of this, and I think I've learnt to kind of let go, and I've learnt that you can't control your life. Like, everything happens and things just happen without any explanation. And like, I am a small percentage of people that have blocked tubes, but they don't know why. Like, I haven't got endometriosis. I haven't got any other conditions that would cause it to block. That this isn't something that has been caused by my lifestyle, anything like that. There is no reason. And so I can't say that everything happens for a reason, because we don't know what this reason is. But you can't control everything. It's physically impossible. I think as much as you want to, you can't. And that has been a huge lesson for me, because that's all I ever want to do. All I ever want to do is be in control. I'm such a control freak, whereas I've had to kind of loosen the reins and just kind of let go on my own life. And it's been really hard, but I'm getting there and I'm learning that, and I think that can only be a good thing, because with that comes patience, and that's another thing that I've never been very patient. Like I say, I'm the worst person to surprise, because as soon as I have an inkling that something's happening, I won't let it drop, and I'll bust your balls until you tell me. I'm so bad. That really, the fact that I've had to learn how to let go and how to not be in control all the time has taught me patience. And I'm not a spoiled brat. I'm not one of these people that like, I want it and I want it now. But I am impatient in that if I do decide I want something, like if we're, I don't know, say we're decorating, and I find something that I want, I won't wait to buy it. I will buy it there and then. I'm so impulsive and I'm impatient that altogether I'm just a train wreck, really. But I think that is one thing this journey has taught us, that I just think things happen because they happen, and you can't control everything in your life. Life would be pretty boring if you could, at the end of the day. In the last 12 months, I've also learned how amazing my life actually is. So this is something I did put in my blog post earlier. I have never really appreciated what I've had, and I think I have taken everything for granted, from my family to my friends to my husband. And after this, you know, I am very lucky. I am 24 years old. I am married in a house that we own with 2 dogs. I have a good job. I get paid a fair amount of money for 24 years old. I have good friends. I have a good family. My extended family are just everything. And you put it all together and I don't really have anything to complain about. Like, of course, there are certain things in my life where I think, oh, I wish I could afford to do that, or I wish I could afford to get a new bathroom, or but it's all material. Do you see what I mean? Like, everything is material. And, you know, there are things that sometimes I think in my head and I think that would perhaps make my life more perfect, if you like. Like, of course, there's part of me that thinks, oh, I wish my parents hadn't split up all those years ago, or I wish my mum lived closer, or I wish my granddad didn't have dementia. That there are all things like that I wish for, that would make my life better, arguably. But maybe they wouldn't, you know? I have a really good life and I am so lucky, and there are people my age, older than me, younger than me, that would kill to have my life. And one thing this has made me realise is just how lucky I actually am. Like, I can't complain about anything, and yet I do all the time. And so this has really taught me that no, I haven't got a baby, but look at all these things I do have. Seriously, look at what you do have and be grateful for that. And I can't sit here and say that if it never happens I'm okay with that, because I'm not. but I am okay with what I have. I'm more than okay with what I have, and sometimes you just have to look around you and really appreciate what you have. Well, that is it for episode 2, so thank you so much for joining me. If you are new here and you haven't yet, then please make sure that you subscribe. I am uploading every Saturday between now and Christmas. So we now have 16 episodes left, which are covering all things fertility. I will try and upload here and there different videos during the week. However, my main focus is going to be the fertility. So if you do want to see more of this and there is anything that you want me to cover, then do drop me a comment below. Make sure that you are also following me on Instagram. But yes, please subscribe and you'll get a notification every time I upload. But it will be every Saturday between now and Christmas. Yay! But thanks so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. So yeah, take care. Thank you. Bye.